So I had an opportunity to meet Carlos when I was working with one of the transformations that I was doing for the company he was working with. Um, Gun ho, exciting. You could tell that he really believed in the culture of the organization, and then we became really good friends. Throughout his continued career. So I'm very proud to have him now present and give back, like you said, Carlos, give back. Right? We're waiting for that. And start kick off a great session today. So I'm gonna pass on the baton to you, Carlos, and thank you very much for your support. Carlos.
Thank you, my friend. Well, first of all, thanks everyone for joining. Um, there's a couple of reasons why I do this. First is, I really love what you guys are doing, Rick, and for me, Agile is very special because it's really different, and I don't know if you agree, but Agile is more of a mindset, more than just a framework, in the sense that I think is always going to evolve in the sense that we had this waterfall thing about 50 years ago, and now we have agile, and people complain about either or. But hey, you make your own, and in the sense that you make your own magic in that way. You have to keep on improving. So that's why I like agile. And when we were trying to do something different at that company, I just found Rick, and it just happens to that's how we met. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, and then we'll go through all the sessions. We have two, well, with more, of course, besides Rick and myself, we have two more guests. One is Steve Farber. He's the He's the president and the owner of a company called Stream Leadership Institute. I believe is the name of his company, and he has a book that really changed a lot of my mindset. Besides that, we have Digital Einstein, and I'm gonna introduce you guys to him and teach you a little bit of how to talk to him. He's a pretty cool guy. So let me share my screen. All right, 1 second here. And we already did some of the testing with Nelu and the team, and thank you for that, guys. So,
Anytime.
all right, so you guys can see my screen, right?
We can see it.
Yes.
Yeah, I
All
can
right.
see it.
So, basically, about 2 months ago, June 1st, I started with a company called GFT. Uh, Before I joined GFT, I was at Globin. I really love Globin, very cool company, and it was a hard decision for me. That's why before I left, I talked to a lot of people. And when I started at GFT, also I talked to a lot of people, and I'm happy. I'm happy, and I look forward to this new journey, and I look forward to this new challenge. I think you know I don't know if you've been tracking some of the changes that I've made on the presentation, but there's a video at the end that I watch every other day, and if you guys like it, just I guess I have it as an appendix, but I changed the content a little bit because I thought it was more fun to talk about Formula One, which is something that I love. I love Formula One, and I love my lovely wife, and I'm from Colombia. And so I live in Miami. I've been living in Miami for I think more than 20 years now. And for me, this is my favorite place in the world. Um, my father was a farmer, but it was a business farmer. So I guess I continue growing seeds for in people's minds, and maybe that's why I became an IT leader. I have two brothers, and also two nephews, and also my wife's family is they're very kind people. I'm very fond of my my father-in-law, very very sweet person. So that's about me. Also, one thing that you probably most of you can relate to is I have a very emotional mother, but she's very special to me. Um, and part of the reason why I became who I am is because when I was about 12 years old, she bought me a computer, and my dad didn't want to pay for it. So I owe a lot to my to my mother and my family. And what else? I have an MBA from UM here in Miami. I have a master's at FIU in MIS. I did a couple of other diplomas, one in design thinking at MIT and also in fintech at Oxford. Um, Rick knows probably more than me all the certifications and agile stuff that I've done, Scrum Master and Product Owner and all that stuff. And also, I did Six Sigma, which I forgot to mention in the registrations introduction. And I think Six Sigma is sometimes it's kind of like a given these days. If you don't have quality, you know, it's not gonna fly. So that's why probably I forgot to mention it. But for me, Six Sigma is very important because um, uh, they teach you a little bit about a couple of things, which is if you want to go from point A to point B, you have to start somewhere, and everything is a process. So, for example, we're going with my wife to Colombia by the end of the year, and before we get there, we have to go to the airport, and you have to wake up. So everything in life is a process, and that's kind of the summary of what I've learned in Six Sigma. Of course, you can be a master black belt, a yellow belt, and all that stuff, but it's great, and I think that's kind of why you see my sense of continuous improvement. Um, I think that's enough about me. If you have any questions about me, just send them over. But let's get started. So I think we already went through the first part. I don't know, Rick, if you want to mention anything else.
No, I think it was great. Great start. I
Well,
want to make sure I give you enough time, so I'll be quiet.
good deal. So, why inspiration? I was thinking about how to put this in the sense of, you can call it different things, but for me, inspiration is basically how do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated to stay creative? And I think this is very important, especially these days. Um, you'll see why I mean by that. But I feel it's important for me. Like I mentioned, I love to travel. So one of my secrets is I love looking at the sunrise. That's why I love Miami. I'm what they call water baby. So that's that's my secret about inspiration. Um, so to go a little bit more in the context of the book from Steve, is very simple, and I'll go through the framework. But he has something called the Radical Leap. That's basically the book that I got many years ago, and it's simple: love, energy, audacity, and proof, which is a nice acronym to make a jump, to make a big leap. So I'll go over some of the details. This is Steve. Steve is going to join at 7, so I'm hoping that he joins us. And Steve was considered one of the top global leadership and management experts by Global Magazine, and he's been leading many companies through this other kind of transformation. And the framework in the company that he does with coaching and all that is called Extreme Leadership. And you probably all have this presentation, but he has the links to all his books and stuff. So, pretty cool guy. I've never met him. I just sent him an email, and I was very kind, and I guess that's why he's coming in over. So, that's how I got him. So to join us. So I'm hoping he can make it. There's something about the book. I don't know if you're gonna cut this off. Rick, but this OSM is called "Oh shit" moment, right?
Yeah,
And
we're gonna beep that one for sure. Yes.
yes, yes. So why is called why is, one of those moments is kind of like the way I'm having right now, which is, I think I'm doing something different and something that's gonna help, and it's like, well, I'm gonna take a leap, which is I feel a little bit like when I was 30 on my 30th year birthday, I jumped out of a plane. I did skydiving, and I felt a little bit like that. Not as extreme, but a little bit like that. So that's an OSM. You can read a little bit more on the detail, or get the book, but that's in my words the sum of that. One of the things that also he talks about is read the signs. And this one I'm going to go a little bit more in detail. I'm not going to say the last word. That way you don't have to cut the audio. But again, he mentions that you have to read the signs. So that's why I have it on the left, that this is the sign you'll be looking for, because if you ever work for a company, sometimes you feel this way. And it comes along these lines. And the context of it is the bathroom. It's when you go to the toilet, and it goes like this: these covers are provided to you by a member of our facility who works all day.
You're breaking up. We can't hear you. You broke
Oh,
up a little bit. Good.
better now.
Yes. Try again.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So
try again.
all right. Let me start again. So it goes along these lines. These covers are provided to you by a member of our facility who works all day in a thankless job. Management doesn't even know how these got here, but we're sure that they approve because they all see it eventually here. With these covers, you have an opportunity to protect yourself. We recommend you take it. After all, is your what? So I think that sometimes some of us may feel this way, and especially sometimes we think that perhaps some of the what we do is people are not appreciative of the work you do. So that's why I put it in there. It's funny because this quote is not anywhere on the internet, but I just took it. So I'm hoping that Steve doesn't mind. So that's the source, is the book. So like I mentioned, I talked to several people at GFT, and one person that I talked to this week. His name is Carlton Hopper, and I think he's the president of the UK practice. And we were discussing ideas, and we were talking a little bit about happiness and this COVID thing, and so I was like, well, this kind of applies to face masks also. And he said, yeah, happiness is contagious. It's more contagious than COVID. So just some food for thought, and that's why I put that in there. But yeah, you mentioned please read the signs, and that's kind of why we have this part in here. So now I'm going to go over a little bit of the framework for the stream leadership and the radical leap. Again, it's a leap, and it goes like this. First, you have to cultivate love, and love sometimes can be tricky. You can be a stalker, or you can be someone that cares, but a lot of people think that they're doing the right thing. So if in your heart you feel that you're doing the right thing, that's the right kind of love. So what happens with that is very powerful. At least in my mind and in my words, I feel that that generates a lot of energy, and you can put it for good use, or you can put it for whatever people think is best for them, or their loved ones. But also, if you want to keep on channeling that energy, you have to inspire audacity, which is a little bit of what I'm doing here. I haven't done this in a long time, especially in this setting, inviting everyone that I know since I was born. So that's a little bit of that audacity. And but if you want to make sure that it works, you have to prove that what you're doing and what you're saying is what you're trying to do, and that you're channeling the what you're saying, and that you do what you said you were going to do. So that is pretty simple, but extremely powerful. And I've tested this for 13 years or more. So I'm going to go a little bit more quickly. I think we have 11 minutes so far, this part. So also, when I was doing research, just to kind of sum up some of these terms, I don't know if you like my presentation, but when I first started and I came to this country, even before that, I learned about websites and web design, and that's kind of my first job. And so I learned about usability and stuff like that. So I guess it comes along when I was a kid. I used to draw pictures for my mother and my grandma. So I like making pretty things. But also, when I was trying to do a couple of startups, I learned about information architecture, which is kind of, I think, is one of my gifts, because in my mind, I have a gift of summarizing stuff. So I found this link is from a friend, dear friend, who sent it to me a long time ago, and I took some of the parts from this. So some of the takeaways is that without love, you really are not going to do much of an impact. That's the first thing. Second thing is you cannot fake it, because when you fake it, people can spot it. Especially when you start at a company, everyone's eyes are on you, or at least that's what they say. So I think there's maybe a little bit of truth on that. The other thing is that you cannot be afraid to make mistakes, because I think perfection is in the eye of the beholder, and if you learn from your mistakes, you can teach people that everyone can do it just like that. And the next one is about principles, and on this one, I'm going to touch upon another subject. I do love reading a lot. I don't know if you can see my video, but this is one of my favorite books, and it's just that word. To sum it up, Ray Dalio is a pretty cool guy, and he actually has an application where you can put your own. But the summary of that book, the summary of that book is that pain plus reflection equals progress, and I truly believe in that. And that's basically what I think it means for principles. And again, last part is the lead thing. You have to be audacious, you have to love, you have to care, and you have to prove. Hey, you know, I'm 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 drinking my own Kool Aid, which is kind of how you prove yourself. Why? So a lot of people, and mostly my family, is like, what the heck is agile? I think they're thinking probably they didn't hear you, Rick, but it's like, what is agile? So very simple terms, agile is a way to work together with people in your teams and trying to come up with stuff that is making some sort of a difference. It is not perfect, just like waterfall 50 years ago, and still now is not perfect. But like I mentioned, is what is perfect. Is I think perfect is very subjective. So another of the principles is individuals. And I take a couple of examples. When I was at school at FIU, my professor kind of called the class and said, "Hey, move this finger, right?" And after a minute, she said, "Put the other way around." We were like about 40 people, and she asked, "How do you feel?" And half of the people were, "I feel weird, right?" And then she asked, "Well, I just asked you to move one finger. Imagine if I ask you to change your life in the way of." So that's why you can have all the tools, all the data. You can have artificial intelligence or whatever. Behind it is people. Even if you go to Mars with Elon Musk and take the car or whatever, there's a lot of people behind it. And I do like the concept of servant leader, but in terms of cost and improvement. So I do buy that. And I also, about, hey, the people are not motivated, especially these days, and you know what I mean a little bit. Uh, People will go somewhere else. And if people don't care about what they're doing, you cannot make them care about what they're doing. And that's just some of my 2 cents there. So this is the part that I was mentioning. So I think if some of you can relate to what's going on, especially working in teams, and I don't care if you work for a church or if you work for the government or if you work for a startup or the most profitable business in the world. I feel from talking to so many people that it's hard to keep people. Even in some interviews, people are messed up. Some examples you can probably tell on your own. And because of that and what's going on with the world, there's difficult interactions, and I changed that word because I have difficult people, but in reality, sometimes a lot of us can be difficult. So it's not about difficult people; it's about difficult interactions. And COVID, I mentioned COVID. I think it's kind of everyone's mind, but I kind of filtered that out because it's like for me, COVID is like a cold, but now it's like a cold that is like the stars. You know how many freaking variants you have, and I know you're gonna probably delete that, Rick. So along with that is, hey, how do you work and have a balance between your life and your work, and being able to call your mother and call your brothers and talk to your wife, and being able to go to the beach and being able to have fun and do what you like and do what you love. How? So I think in a lot of people's minds you have some of that, and that all goes to risk, and that all goes to time. So I think perhaps some of this is in some people's mind right now. So through my process in this company, I came across this framework, and why do I put this in here? Because the previous slide was very negative, So it's like, so Carlos, how can we change this? So I'm gonna go through this one a little bit more in detail. I talked to my brother and a good friend of mine. He's like, Carlos, this is important. You have to explain it a little bit better with examples. So I'm going to try to do my best. This is very simple. An assertiveness matrix. Okay. I took this from a course that I did in LinkedIn. I believe I have that at the end. The link. It's not free, but this is a good part of it. And it goes like this: how do you see yourself? Do you think you're a good person, or do you think you're messed up? Right? That's on the left. I'm not okay, or I'm okay. And the same goes along with people. Do you think people in general are good people, or do you think the people are against you or against the world and trying to hurt you or whatever? Right? That's basically the setting on top. So when you're not okay, when you think you're messed up, and when you think people are messed up, you're passive aggressive. Passive aggressive, the way Chris talks in his speech, is he gives you an example, and is a lady had a car she bought brand new, but there was another lady with a Rolls Royce that came in and by accident just smacked the door and scratched her car. Well, she could have done many things, but what she did is she took her keys and started scratching the Rolls Royce. The other lady probably doesn't care. She has enough money to either get another car or get it fixed, but she was upset and she did that, and that's passive aggressive. Aggressive means that you think you're the best, but the people are messed up, and then you always need to keep on pushing people and trying to force people on your own way. And I think that one we probably have some examples that I'm not going to mention, in the sense that that's sometimes it's kind of common. The other one is when you think that you're not okay, but the world is better than you, and that's very people that are passive, people that just, hey, do whatever you tell me, I'll do, and I don't have a voice, and I don't care, and there's some aspects on that are go beyond this talk, and where we all try to get to or put people on is on the left. For the most part, I do feel that people are good people. Sometimes people are not so good, but they have their own reasons. And I do feel that even the people that do bad things in their own mind, they're trying to do their best for themselves or their family, and they justify their actions. So if you think you're a good person, and you think in general people are okay, you're assertive. Um, so I hope I explained that. I hope I made some points on that. What time is it? Okay. Because I want to keep the check on Steve. So again, on this one is kind of, if you think this kind of makes sense, what do you see yourself? What do you think about yourself? What do you think about people? where are you on these four spaces here? So it's just some food for thought, because that helps with the stuff that maybe it can be on your mind. All right. So now we're gonna have a little bit more fun. Like I mentioned, I love Formula One, so this is one of the coolest videos that I've seen. I'm a Hamilton fan. I also like Aston Martin. I like Aston Martin because the cars are beautiful, but also because of their marketing is pretty cool. So Red Bull, I think, is a cool team. In fact, Max Verstappen is kind of the contender of Hamilton. Um, but it's still the sport. I like the sport because of the teamwork. So let's just get started with that.
Okay, Max. Welcome to Miami.
Nice beach. This is really slippery. Can I get a tire change?
Stop on the marks. You'll see the boys.
Yeah, baby. Where to next?
Head down Ocean Drive.
Can we get the wet stuff?
Confirm. Watch for the lollipop.
I think he wants to race. Let's see what he can do. Haha, he wasn't as fast as he looked.
Alright, head towards downtown.
How can you not love this city? Hey Daniel, what took you so long?
2 words, Max. Las Vegas.
Haha, reckon this would be a cool circuit?
Only one way to find out, mate.
All right. So the video, I think, was recorded in 2019, and I've been playing around with the concept of having the race in Miami. It looks like it's going to happen next year, so I'm really crossing my fingers for that. In fact, I have a call with someone that is telling me that I may be able to get some tickets. So all right, let's go to the next.
This might be a good way of introducing the conference, right? The leads right into where we're actually going to have the conference in South Florida. So I'm going to use that.
Yes. Yes. Do you wanna mention anything else right from that?
Oh no, that's it from that side.
Rick, are you going to show up in your Formula One car?
That's right. So it looks like it's in June though, Rick. I think it's June 13, but they're still working on the details. So I'll ping you once I get some more details. So let's go to the next one. So this one is about GFT. GFT is a cool company. I really started liking a lot of the people that I've been working with. Everyone at GFT has been very kind, so that's also why I wanted to share. This is a nice video about the company.
Luckily, we are all born with talents, but we are also born with some anti-talents. Those things you're simply not good at. And sometimes we feel like our anti-talents stand out more than our actual talents. But a day and a moment will come when your talent bursts, becomes visible, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, "This is my thing." At GFT we say, if you have talent, take advantage of it. It is time to be courageous. Live it. You have caring professionals by your side. Share it. There is a great team to move forward with. Prove it. We are committed to you. Feel it. We are one team collaboratively working towards the same goal. Enjoy it. Bring your creativity to the limit. Make it grow. You will be involved in IT projects that are transforming companies and changing digital banking experiences. Learn. Grow. At GFT we say, come, there is room for your talent. And if you want to, also bring your anti-talents. Visit gft.com/ready to grow. The next big thing, your career.
My anti-talent is parkour because it is a sport that involves a lot of attributes that I don't have, such as fitness, athleticism, and flexibility. My talent is in breaking down complex ideas into understandable pieces across cultural and linguistic barriers.
Mi antitalento es patinar. No se trata de un problema de equilibrio porque soy bastante bueno montando bicicleta. Se trata de que no sé frenar y siempre termino llevándome por delante a lo que se atraviese, una abuela, un perro, un poste de luz. Mi talento sería la consultoría. Soy muy bueno entendiendo al cliente y sus necesidades para transformarlas en una solución IT, considerando siempre no lo que pide, sino lo que necesita.
Meu antitalento é cozinhar. Embora as pessoas associem a cozinha às meninas, eu definitivamente não sou boa nisso. Meu talento é ser desenvolvedora. Embora essa área seja dominada por homens, eu conquistei meu espaço e hoje procuro as melhores soluções para os clientes.
So this is GFT, and I think you probably notice there's people speaking English and Spanish and Portuguese, because we do have a lot of people in Brazil and Costa Rica and all different countries, and we see a lot of growth coming for us. Very cool people. That's one of the reasons why I joined. So I'm very grateful, and I appreciate everyone's kindness since I started, and that's why I wanted to share some of this information. So let's go to the next one. This is
I
yeah.
I love the vulnerability. I love the personalization of it. Like I'm jealous now. I'm going to start creating some more vulnerability videos. I think it really, it makes you kind of, support them. Wow, they're there, falling on their skates. They're there. They're human beings, and they're all. So I love it. I think that's very, it attracts you. It attracts you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. I think empathy is one of the strongest feelings for everyone. So I don't know if that's kind of what you had in mind, but yeah, I do agree with you. And this one, Steve. This is Steve. This is about his latest book, and let's go over that a little bit. I think we have 4 minutes before he joins, so maybe we can change the schedule a little bit, which is okay. It's still a work in progress. So let's start with that.
I want to talk to you about a really important concept in business, but get ready because it's radical. And that concept is love. So just to be clear, I'm a business guy, and trust me, I don't use the word love lightly. I'm the author of The Radical Leap, The Radical Edge, and Greater Than Yourself, and I've been in the business of leadership development for 30 years. And I've had the opportunity to work with Microsoft, to Hyatt, to Ernst & Young, I mean, every kind of business you can imagine. Over the last 10 years alone, the business world has spent close to $1 trillion on leadership development. 73% of people are disengaged in their work. 10 years ago, 70%. Something is dreadfully wrong. So I think we need to do something more radical, something extreme. And that radical idea boils down to operationalizing love as a business principle. But let me be clear about this. When I'm talking about love in business, I don't mean group hugs in the elevator. I'm not talking about love as a sentiment. I'm talking about love as a discipline, as a practice. So what might that look like? Well, let me give you an example of a company called Trailer Bridge. Trailer Bridge is a shipping and logistics company in Jacksonville, Florida. So they emerged from bankruptcy several years ago. They burned through 4 CEOs in 3 years and 4 heads of HR in the same period of time. People were wanting to get out of there. It was toxic. So enter Mitch Luciano. It just so happens he was a fan of my books. So he was already coming from a place of love. The first thing he said was, don't call me CEO. I have to prove myself to the folks that I'm being asked to lead. He said, okay, this is a company of 110 people. We should know their names. And everybody until that point used to walk around with name tags on. So he got rid of the name tags. Then he lowered the height of the cubicles in the office so people could actually see each other, look into each other's eyes, and talk to each other more. And then he said to his management team, spend more time with the people here and get to know them as human beings. That's what I mean by operationalizing love. So how are they doing now? Over the last 2 years in a row, they've been rated #1 and #2 best place to work in the city of Jacksonville. And the last 3 years have been the most profitable in the history of the company. Their own employees have become their best recruiters because instead of wanting to leave now, they want people to come and join them at this amazing place called Trailer Bridge. When you put all this together, it leaves us with one very obvious conclusion. Love is just damn good business.
All right, so that is a little bit about the latest book from Steve. I think we're
so Carlos, just to let you know, Steve is actually here. Okay. He's hiding there, he just turned on his videos, so you can pass on the baton as whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready. I think I'm out now. Okay. Cool. Oh, sorry, I had some issues here. All right.
So let's make sure we give him a big hug because I know he wants love. So people, turn on your video camera at least to start this. Everyone, turn on your cameras. All right, let's go. A big hug for Steve. Here you go, Steve.
That feels good. All the way to San Diego, I can feel it.
Woo! Steve. Thank you for joining. It's a pleasure meeting you. You probably didn't see the whole speech, but we have it recorded. Your book means a lot to me, and we're very happy that you joined. We're very grateful. And if you want to say anything, please do. I only have one question for you. I'm not sure if anyone else has any more questions, but please go ahead and anything you want to share.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, Carlos. Thanks for reaching out to me. Otherwise, we never would have gotten to know each other. Or started to get to know each other. So it's a real pleasure. And thank you, Rick, for hosting this, you guys. It's fantastic. It's great to see everybody. And by the way, I do have a preference, if at all possible, if you could turn your cameras on, that would be great. Because, it occurs to, I spend a lot of time on Zoom, as I'm sure all of you guys do. It occurred to me one day, having lived the last 30 years on various, stages and in various companies and in front of the room, at seminars, when everything switched to Zoom, suddenly it occurred to me one day that going to a Zoom meeting with your camera off is kind of like showing up at an in-person meeting with a bag over your head. But it's up to you. It's up to you. I have been, I'll give you a little bit of context, and then I'm happy to take whatever questions you have. Anything goes as far as I'm concerned. Questions, comments, concerns, emotional outbursts of any sort. I'm up for all of it. I have been doing this work of, I guess we could call it leadership development for 30 years, over 30 years now. And I've had the opportunity to work with just about every kind of company you can imagine, oftentimes from top to bottom. I have a couple of projects going right now where they're, over a year-long endeavor in really transforming the culture of the organization to be a place that people love doing business with, people love working in, and a place that can stand as a model for what a great culture can look like, and ultimately to become the best place to work. So that's my passion. I've written a few books, and I don't claim to have all the answers. I'm not the guy that's got it all figured out, certainly, but I do have a couple of things that I feel pretty strongly about as to what constitutes great leadership and what constitutes great business. And I know I'm also a little bit connected with the Agile community, and I understand not necessarily everybody on the call is related to Agile, but a lot of you are. And I have, there's been quite a few people from the Agile community that have come through our extreme leadership certification process. So I feel like I'm among friends and perhaps soon to be family. So I'll turn it over to you, Carlos. Whatever you got for me, I'm happy to kick it around.
Yeah, I only have one question for you. Is in the context of business, in the context of leadership, and trying to, as you called it in your book, save the world. What is tough love? What do you mean by that? How do you work with that? That one's difficult.
Yeah. Any other questions? No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So tough. So here's the thing. Let me first sort out the stereotype from the reality. Because a lot of us, when we hear the word love, for all of us, I would guess, we hear the word love, it carries certain connotations with it. And many of us, maybe even most of us, are not accustomed to saying the word love and business in the same sentence. It makes us squirm a little bit because we have this idea, like I mentioned briefly on that little video you just saw, we have this idea that love is some kind of a fluffy, sentimental sort of a thing, and it certainly can be. But in the context of business, we're talking about love as a discipline and a practice. And we know it when we experience it. We also know when it's not real. We know when it becomes like, the smiley faces and there's nothing behind it. So I think in some respects, Carlos, a lot of love is tough love. It's not that it's all hearts and flowers and every now and then you got to be tough. Love in the context of business is, for one thing, it is tough. I mean, because what we're doing is we're raising the standards. We're not lowering the standards, we're raising the standards. So the stereotype is, well, if we want to create a place that people love working in, that means that people walk around with big goofy grins on their faces all the time and nobody ever argues, and every so often you stop and have a group hug in the elevator or the hallway, and it's all, it's all just sweet and syrupy, and frankly that sounds nauseating to me. Really, when you have a company that's defined by love, by real love, it tends to be livelier. There tends to be more debate. There tends to be more argument, but of the right kind. And it's born of having a high standard. Because think about it. If I really love this place, or if I love this project that I'm working on, for example, I'm not going to tolerate substandard performance. I'm not going to tolerate apathy, because I love it too much. And if I love you as my team member, I'm not going to let you get away with anything less than what you're capable of. So that's tough love, right? But it's coming from the right place. So sometimes tough love looks like honest feedback. So again, it's got to be coming from the right place. If I'm giving you feedback because this is my opportunity to take you down a peg, that's not tough love. That's just being a pain in the butt. So sometimes it means giving honest feedback. Sometimes it can actually mean firing somebody. If you're not right for this place and you're miserable and you're making everybody else miserable, it can very much be an act of love for me to usher you out and perhaps help you find someplace more suitable. So there's no one simple answer to any of this. It's not a formula. It's something we have to experiment with. But we all know it. We know love when we experience it. And you'll notice when you read my books, the most recent is called Love is Just Damn Good Business. And the reason I called it that is because love is just damn good business. But you'll notice that it's not, okay, therefore do X, Y, and Z. It's here's an example, and then the question is, what should love look like in the way that we do business? What should that look like here? And if you have a discussion around that, just asking the question raises the bar. So to ask the question, what can we do to have our customers love us? It's a very different question from what can we do to improve our customer service, right? It lives in the same neighborhood, but when you add love into the equation, it makes everything more challenging, and everything it inspires us to strive for more than we've ever done before. You'll see I'm short answer challenged, by the way. I could continue for another hour on that one, but I'd love to hear from anybody else that has a question or a comment.
Sure, Steve. So the way we'll handle this, guys, so we'll have individuals looking at the chat, right? So Joe, please help me to see if anybody has any questions. So I do have one question for you. So here you have C-levels and you want them to take the first step. What is the sign? What is it that they actually have to acknowledge to say, okay, I'm ready for this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question, because they do have to say that. They do have to say that. So what I've realized in my work, and this might sound obvious in retrospect, but like I said, I've been doing this work for a few decades. And it wasn't until fairly recently, I mean, like over the last maybe 5 or 6 years, that I realized it is not my job to convince anybody of this. It's not my job to convince anybody of anything. I'm not in the convincing business. I'm in the confirmation business. This is what I've learned. So what I mean by that is, so let's take that C-level executive that you talked about, Rick. If that person came to me and said, okay, Farber, sit down. You got 15 minutes to prove to me that this love thing is worth pursuing. I might do it just for the fun of the challenge, but that person is not going to be my client. On the other hand, if that person were to say, I heard your message and I know you're right, I just don't know how to do it. Or I've always felt that way. I hear this a lot. I felt that way. That's been my instinct for a long time, but I always thought there was something wrong with me, because you're not supposed to feel that way or pursue that in business. And now that I hear you say it, Farber, I'm emboldened to step up and act on something that I already knew. So that's the starting point. So when I don't care if it's a C-level executive or an individual contributor, leadership to me is not about position or title. It's about who you are and what you do and how you show up and how you live and your ability to influence people around you to change things for the better. In a cultural process, like that little, the quick snippet that you saw about Trailer Bridge, which is a great company. And by the way, last year in COVID, they were voted #1 best place to work again, and they're blowing up. I mean, they're doing incredibly well, all through operationalizing love in the way they do business. And Mitch Luciano, who's the CEO of the company, when he was given the reins by the board, they came to him and said, "Okay, it's your turn. We've been through 4 CEOs in 3 years. Now it's your turn, Mitch." His objective from the beginning was to make that company a place that people will love being a part of, because he had read The Radical Leap, my first book, years ago, and it had been a part of his leadership philosophy personally. Now he had a chance to apply it organizationally. But so he didn't have to be convinced. What he had to do was get everybody engaged in answering the question, what should love look like here? And what does it mean to be a place that people love doing business with? What does it mean to be a place where our customers will do business with us because they really want to, not because we're the cheapest in town, because we sucked so bad we had to cut our prices, right? And that is what led them to this incredible success. So in changing a culture of a whole organization, the conventional wisdom that says it needs to start from the top, I believe is true. Having said that, that doesn't disqualify the rest of us from doing great work. So if you're a project manager or you're a department supervisor or you're an individual contributor and you look around your company and you say, this place would be so great if only those idiots up there would figure things out, that doesn't mean there's no hope for you right now. The question then becomes, what can you do? What can you do in your area of influence, regardless of what anybody else around here is or is not doing? What can you do to change at least your piece of that company for the better? And all that does add up, and you have an opportunity to influence lots of other people. I'm just starting to work with a company here in San Diego, a big biotech company. And wouldn't it be great, I says to myself, wouldn't it be great to just waltz in there and work directly with the CEO and work with the 6,000 employees that this company has? Yeah, that would be great. But instead, what's happening is I'm working with one very influential group within the company of 30 people. And their objective in that group is to create such a kick-ass team that everybody else in their company is going to look at them and say, what the hell are you guys doing there? And that way they can influence the rest of the company. So that's the opportunity for everybody on this call, should you choose to step up to that challenge. It's always great to start with the top, but there's no place that I can start other than with myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. So I'm looking at the chat. What do you think, Joe? Anything there?
I didn't say anything, Rick.
I can't believe that there's not enough questions. I have so many questions. I'm holding back. So I'm going to give you guys a second to write something.
What questions you guys got?
And Rick, don't be shy. And Carlos, don't be shy about asking more questions, because chances are pretty good you're going to ask a question that's on somebody else's mind as well, even though.
So I have a problem with love and trust.
Yeah.
And
in general, in your life in general, you have a problem with.
No, I just think that I actually believe in that. That's very, very strong. And with the agile mindset, we talk a lot about building trust, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, right? Trying to help teams through that. But every time I talk to people, for some reason, it's difficult for them. They're data driven. They're not interested in that touchy feely. They think it's all touchy feely. And you pretty much clarified that it's uncomfortable conversations, all that. But it's just those words just sometimes does not fit in their vocabulary. Some of these people don't even smile. It's that type of culture. So I'm curious on the wording and does that?
Yeah. So a couple of things. This might sound like statements that cancel each other out. Language is important, and language is not the entire point. So yes, when you use the word love, like I said a couple of minutes ago, you set a different tone. You raise the standard a little bit, but it's not about walking around saying, "Hey, I love you, man. I love you, man. I love you, man." You know, and let's talk about love instead of data. Oh, nice numbers, but what do you love about me?
You can get kicked out of a job for that, just so you know that.
No shit. So the thing is that it's really about understanding. Let me set up the framework for this. So anybody in business should understand that we have no business. We do not have a business if our customers or clients, or whatever terminology you use, if they don't love us. If they don't love doing business with us, if they don't love the quality that we produce for them, if they don't love the experience that we create for them, if they don't love the way we solve their problems and help them meet their challenges, then we are not competitive, because there's somebody else out there that's doing it better, right? So let's start with that. We want our customers or clients, insert the right word, to love doing business with us, period. Any business person worth his or her salt will understand that. Now, how do we get there is the question. And for that, we have to back it up one more step. In order to create an experience that our customers are going to love, we have to create an environment or a culture that people love working in. If I don't love working here, if I'm not passionate about the work that I'm doing, it's very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult for me to put out the kind of quality that customers are going to love. And then if I back it up one more step, as a leader or in a culture or a contributor to a culture, I can't help to create that kind of place that people love working in unless I love it myself first. So it all becomes very personal very quickly. But it doesn't mean adopting a different personality from what I already have. I have done a ton of work with engineers and scientists over the years. And what I'm finding is that contrary to the stereotype, it's a lot easier, or sometimes it's easier for the data-driven engineer, let's say, to connect with this idea of love, because they love their work. They love writing code. They love the numbers. So let's start with that. So then my job if I'm a leader of that person, my job is to create an environment for that person to really make use of their talents and their passion. And then translating that into the interpersonal stuff is going to be different from person to person. It doesn't mean that now you got to start, smiling when you never smile. I mean, it couldn't hurt, but it's not about adopting a personality other than you have. It's about being authentic in who you are and supporting each other in a way that allows us to do our best work. And there's that balance that we always have to find, and sometimes that's where the tough love comes into play. We've all had the experience of the really, let's say, super talented technical person who's just like really crazy good at what they do, but nobody can stand working around that person because they're mean or they're ornery or whatever. You can't rely on them. And then I've seen this happen a lot where the company says, yeah, but they're so good at what they do. So it's really, we can't do anything about that. And that's a shame, because that's an opportunity for that person to learn the impact that they have on the other people around them. If I'm being productive at the expense of 5 other people's productivity because I'm such a schmuck to them, then the overall impact that I'm having is negative, not positive. So there is some interpersonal stuff for all of us. Even somebody like me who's a what do you call it? A people person. Believe me, it doesn't mean that I don't, occasionally run over people like a freight train if I'm not paying attention to how I'm talking or whatever. So there's opportunities for all of us. But again, it's not about establishing some Hallmark card sort of approach to everything.
All right. Opening the floor again. Go ahead.
So we got a few questions. There's a question from not me, it's his name, he's asking, or they're asking, what inspired you, or who inspired you for things you do or the speeches you give?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. So I've been blessed with a really a really extraordinary journey, career path, I guess you could say, because I've worked with so many different companies, and I've had really incredible mentors along the way, and I've met some great people. My most significant mentor is a guy named Jim Kouzes, Kouzes. Kouzes and Posner are the authors of the Leadership Challenge, probably the most significant body of research on leadership on the planet. I met Jim. He actually hired me at a place called the Tom Peters Company back in the 90s. Tom Peters is another of my mentors. Tom Peters, no exaggeration, is one of the most influential management thinkers of our era. And I was vice president of Tom's company through the 90s. Jim Kouzes was the president. I was one of the vice presidents. So I've had these amazing mentors. And I've had incredible clients who I've learned a lot from. Rick, you mentioned 5 dysfunctions of a team. Pat Lencioni. Pat was my client when I was at the Tom Peters Company. He was at a company called Sybase. So I've known Pat since 1994, watched him become a rock star in this business. So what inspires me really are the leaders that I've met over the years, and mostly the leaders that you've never heard of. In other words, the people that I've met in my work who are, they do incredible work every day in their companies, and learning from them and asking the question that anybody, we have a lot of consultants in this call, our job is to help other people do their work better. So in the leadership arena, for me, it's not only am I there to teach, I'm also there to learn, because I see what happens in the trenches. And when I got to the point in my career where I'd had a lot of exposure and I've had all these great mentors and learned a lot of other people's work and seen and met all these great leaders in every industry and various parts of the world, I just began to ask myself the question, what does this all mean? And based on everything that I've learned, what do I want people to understand? And when I really started to examine that question, that's when the Radical Leap framework emerged. So Leap came out in 2004 in its first edition. Leap is a model that stands for love, energy, audacity, and proof. So when I asked that question, what have I learned from all these folks and what should other people understand? It all came down to love. Because all these people that were so extraordinary, that did amazing work and had such great reputations, that got such incredible results, it was all about love for them, and they weren't shy about it. And the people that worked for them weren't shy about it. So then I just, got about the work of how do I convey this to other people? And that's what inspired me and continues to inspire me. And the longer I've been doing this work, the more I see that it's universal. And I've had this discussion with people in the U.S., from the West Coast to the East Coast to the Midwest. I've had this conversation in China. I've had this conversation in Singapore. I've had this conversation in Germany. I've had this conversation in Thailand. I've had this conversation in Saudi Arabia. I've had this conversation in Israel. And everywhere I go, people get it. Not everybody, but the people that get it. And it may look different in their culture, but it's the same thing. So that inspires me. Seeing how people get it, and then to see what people do with these ideas, man, it's just, it makes every day worthwhile.
But Steve, compared to all the places you've presented it, right here in the South Florida Agile Association, that has to be the top.
Way at the top.
I just want to make sure we
way at the top. Way up there.
All right, our next question comes from Oscar. He wants to know, how do I take the I love you and hug feeling and give it to my sons and teammates and clients?
So I'm looking at the question. I'm reading it a little bit different. How do I take the I love you and hug feelings that I give to my sons and take that to my teammates and clients?
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah. So it's a great question because love is love, but it looks different in different places, right? The feeling, however, is not entirely different. Again, it gets back to this idea that I know it when I experience it. So, for example, we use the word love. Notice how often you use it. And notice the context in which you use it. So for me, for example, I love pizza. There, I said it. I love pizza. I also love my wife. I love them very differently. One I probably shouldn't love so much, and one I should, right? So I know the difference. You know the difference, but yet we choose to use the same word, at least in, when we're speaking English. There are some nuances in other languages, certainly. But the idea is that the love that I have for my sons, I can translate that to my love for colleagues in some very specific ways. So, for example, if you look at the dynamics, and by the way, I'm speaking from experience. So just so you know, I've raised like millions of kids. It seems that way. I have 6. So I have 3. My wife has 3. Our youngest is 25. Oldest is 43. So if you do the math on this, my dubious achievement as a parent is that I raised teenagers. Are any of you raising teenagers right now? Yeah, I raised teenagers for 25 straight years. So I'm a little nuts as a result of that. But my point is that I'm speaking from experience when I say that healthy parents, good parents, what we want for our kids is we want them to have lives that are more fulfilling than our own. We want them to have success that is greater than our own. That's what defines us as good parents. So we know what's going on to the best of our abilities. We're interested in what's happening in their lives. They may not always tell us, but we're interested in what's happening in their lives. And as those teenagers become adults, they begin to understand why we're interested in what's happening in their life, that it's not just about controlling them and trying to, keep them out of trouble, but that we're really interested. So the same is true from adult to adult who's not my child. I can show you that I love you by being interested in what's happening with you. I can show you that I love you by wanting to know your goals, your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, by wanting to know your story. I want to know the things in your life that you've accomplished that you're proud of, and I want to know the things in your life that are challenges to you and that I might be able to help with, and then I'm going to share that with you as well. So it's going to look and feel a little bit different, and I appeal to your common sense on this. But fundamentally, at its core, it's about being compassionate and kind, and having high standards all rolled in together.
So we're getting to the 7:30 time. I know there's probably a lot more. So how do they reach you, Steve? If there's a lot more questions, where do you want that forwarded to?
Yeah, so you can, I'm really easy to find. If you can remember my name, you can find me. But a couple of things, if you go to stevefarber.com, that's the place that I live. The podcast is there. I got a great podcast called The Love is Just Damn Good Business Podcast. Some really terrific interviews with people that get it. And then on all the usual, social media haunts. So Steve Farber on LinkedIn, Steve Farber on Twitter, Steve Farber on Instagram. You got the idea. But I'm going to put something in the chat for you. Awesome. I highly, 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 highly recommend that you subscribe to the daily audio message. I started doing this a few months ago, Monday through Friday. It's an audio message that is usually around 2 minutes, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. Never never as long as 3 minutes. You get a Monday through Friday in your inbox. And of all the things that I've done and all the content that I put out over the years, I get more positive feedback on this than anything I've done. It's really something. I take a lot of pride in it. I do it all myself. I curate it. I edit it. All of it. I spend 2 to 3 hours a week doing 5 2-minute episodes. And I know you'll love it. And if you don't love it, opt out. But I'm pretty sure you'll love it.